Hey Tirsa, this video should help you understand what I included in the plan that I sent you. As you've stepped into this new ownership role at EAS and a new partnership with Diana, you're coming into new challenges. I want to show you the opportunities that I see for you, some obstacles that I've noticed, and what I think we should do in the future to overcome those obstacles. The first thing we need to focus on is making sure that you and Diana have a solid partnership, that you have a solid foundation. This starts with trust. So this is making sure that you guys can express yourselves openly and freely, and that you can support each other in where your strengths and your weaknesses are. Obviously, you can't expect that you both are going to agree 100% on everything. And so a lot of times having these conversations, understanding each other's position and making a decision is going to be the key to progress and moving forward. We need clearer roles and making sure that we have measurable goals and accountability. I've noticed that sometimes there's a focus on what each other are doing throughout the day. She might care about what you're doing and how you're doing it, and you might care about what she's doing and how she's doing it. If you guys focus on the results that are needed and holding each other accountable for those, then it really doesn't matter how those results get achieved, as long as you guys have an understanding of how those goals need to be achieved. There may be some guidelines, but for the most part, there should be enough creative freedom to be able to get those things done, and then you can focus on just the results. And it doesn't really matter how much time you're spending when you come into the office, when you leave, if you're working on the weekend. All that stuff should not matter as long as you're focused on results. Next, I want to come up with a clear set of criteria of how we determine what priorities are. This could be anything from how we assess risk on something. Is there something that we're going to do that can greatly reduce the risk? Or is there something that might make a higher impact in some other area, may have some other high leverage, something like that? I think it would be important to come up with a criteria to how we determine those things. Next, beyond that, I've noticed also that sometimes you'll start a project and go down the road of creating it only to have it blocked in some way. And this wastes everybody's time. It wastes your time, it wastes Diana's time, it wastes the team time. And so I think it's important that we think about these projects, especially because there are complexities to them, meaning they affect multiple different roles within the company. It could affect the client experience, whatever. And so I think spending more time in the architectural phase, meaning that we come up with the plans first, that we're clear on what needs to happen. This doesn't take a long time, but having that clear communication up front, clear vision, shared vision together is really important. After that, if you look at a house, there's the architecture that happens, but we still haven't started to build the house at all. That is more of like the planning phase. And so I think we need to make sure that we are planning correctly, that we have the broader context of things that need to happen, how much time we can spend on executing on the day-to-day versus executing on the longer-term priorities that are going to help us in the longer term. And it doesn't have to be super long-term. It could be long-term, might be a week or two or a month or two or whatever, but it's longer than today. So, just making sure that we're planning together and we know what each of us are accountable for, when we're accountable for it, and what it needs to look like, I think is going to be really important. So once again, like a house, you architect it, you start building, but if you just show up when it's supposed to be done, it's likely that there's going to be mistakes made along the way, and the person doing them might not have noticed. So it's important to have that outside perspective, come in and look at how things are going and make sure there's a check-in to making sure we're on track for the vision. So anytime you have a house built, they always do a walkthrough. And it's almost never happens where the walkthrough is flawless and seamless. Usually there's some sort of issues. They'll give you some painter's tape with, the blue painter's tape, and you can mark different places that need to be fixed. And so this could be some deeper issue, which hopefully those got addressed earlier, but it also a lot of cosmetic things. And so we need to make sure that we have criteria for closing and getting these projects complete and what that looks like. And then also part of that is looking at the project, looking back and seeing how we can get better as a team and how we can apply those things onto future projects, or how we can use better what we've created in the process of the current project. So I think that's, in terms of how you and Diana work together better, I think those are going to be key things, making sure that we know that we trust each other, but there's also some things that we need to make sure that we're keeping each other accountable for, and then making sure that we're clear on, the areas of responsibilities, how we measure those things. And then as we do these projects, as we work on priorities, as we work on these things that aren't day to day, how do we make sure that we don't waste time? We know that what we're working on is important because we've agreed on it. We've had criteria for making that decision, and then also making sure that we're on track along the way. And I think that would really help in terms of how you and Diana work together. The next thing I think is the team dynamic. So the team is greatly going to be affected by how you and Diana work and how you work together. Usually any good habit or bad habit that you guys do gets amplified throughout the team if you have a bigger team. And so we want to get those things fixed and resolved up front, making sure that you and Diana work together better. But also when it comes to working with the team closer, I think making sure that we are communicating effectively with them, the progress that we're making on some of these things, including them so that they feel a sense of ownership, including them on decisions, I think is important as well. And then making sure that they're clear and that they have measurable goals themselves. So I think, just like I said before about, you and Diana, making sure that the team knows what metrics that they are responsible for. And then you don't have to worry about a lot of the in-between stuff and how things get done, as long as they know what they're accountable for. So beyond knowing what to do, knowing what you're accountable for, I think it's important that you consistently have a forum for having conversations about ways to get better. So this is training. So what do we train on? How do we make sure that we're communicating effectively? So that, training on communication, training on how to work together better as a team, training on, urgency versus importance, training on time management, all these things. Instead of training on checklist, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because there's a complexity to what you guys do, I think it's important that we have forums for how we talk about these things, and then that will have a continuous improvement to it, because just bringing these things up, having people think about them in a different way is going to help everybody come together and see their work differently. So as I've thought about you and Diana and the team and just all the conversations that we've had, I really feel like, the things that I've outlined here are going to help you, like, beyond what you even think right now. I think this could help you tremendously and really have you poised for whatever you want the future to hold. And it could be just a lot of time off. It could be growing something bigger. It doesn't really matter. But I think, you'll be able to have more choices when you're not focused on day-to-day fires and issues that come up. So I'm excited about the next step, and I'll talk to you later.